Okay, so this is a continuation. So there's no need for another guru or another pointing or another word at all. There's no need for any of it. So this is already it. This is the end of the search. This is the end of everything. But nothing ends because there was never anyone searching. It was all a very convincing dream. And see, I heard all that too. See, saying this now, I've heard all those silly pointers about how it's all a dream and this and that, and it's awful. It's awful to hear that. It's not fun to hear that this is it already, and like it's almost like, well, why can't I see it? All these guys are these well-meaning people are saying this is it, and I hate them. Maybe I'm jealous of them, or that's the way it was for me. I'm jealous of these people who see this and I don't see it, and it is awful. It's terrible. There's a huge amount of frustration and despair that can happen. But what can be seen is all of that. All of that can be looked into and seen. So the person in despair can be looked into. The one who's frustrated. The one who just wants one more hit of non duality to get it. And see, all of this can be seen and is seen, really. What happens is the conditioned mind becomes so accustomed to content, so things are happening, and the mind is focusing in on various aspects of experience and claiming it into itself. So it's my thoughts, my feelings, my body, my video, my search. So this my factor that is attached to content, and then that becomes sort of generalized into the emptiness or the awareness that's being pointed to in non-duality, the changeless, that which never changes, which is this here in which things happen. And so that becomes my true nature or my identity or my reality or my awareness. And see, this me, my, I, that's the factor that's being pointed to as unreal in non-duality. And so it's sort of a two-pronged approach. It's pointing to the real, and it's also pointing to the possibility of deconstructing the unreal. And it's two sides of the same coin. So this has no relevance really because this is something that's continuous, you could say, even though there's no time for it to continue in. This is the eternal. This is it. And see, that's a horrible pointer for a mind who essentially lives as though this isn't it. The mind lives as though, this moment can't be it. It must be somewhere else. And I am definitely a person or an entity on a journey towards the better moment. So what is the problem, essentially? During the search for myself, the problem was the fact that this was never good enough. And I always felt separate. There was always the feeling of being separate, sort of a contraction, and the notion that I'm in here as an entity. And this is made of, you could say it's energetic and language based. And it doesn't matter, you know, it really doesn't matter what we call it. It's simply a matter of looking into it and seeing. It's a seeing of what it is and how it operates and just a noticing of it and sort of a delving into. It's a moving into these inner phenomena and seeing what they are, what is happening inside here, you could say. Because often what happens is during the search, the attention or the consciousness would move out into, for example, on the internet, into the pointers, and it's, oh, I'm reading the pointers, and my attention is moving into them, and I'm looking at words, and I'm saying, what are these words pointing to? What do they mean? And I need to accumulate them, so I'm grabbing pointers. Oh, more hits of power, non-dual power, potency. Oh, the best teacher. Look, he's the best teacher. So I'm moving into this best teacher search and trying to absorb the energy or something. Or I'm listening, I'm meditating, and closing my eyes, and I'm gonna bask in the potency of the pointers. But all the while, the mind was operating subliminally and sort of moving outward into a projection, a dream in time, essentially, and distance. So, really, if there were a suggestion, even though there's no entity to do it, just do it. Look back, go back. Move the search from all this imagined outward movement back into the imagination and seeing where this imagination comes from and these feelings and this dilemma. Looking back into the dilemma itself, back, instead of this continual marathon outward into the appearance, which is very tiring. And see, the mind, or the brain, or this mechanism, isn't accustomed to that. So there's a fierce resistance in turning the consciousness upon itself and delving into itself. Because that's simply not how we're programmed, if you could say that. We're programmed to, we're looking, it's gotta be there, the next moment, the next drug, the next sex, or whatever it is, or the next non-dual pointer, it's all the same. And being spiritual seems like a worthy endeavor. So on the search, I felt like I was really someone special, on the search, because I'm interested in the ultimate truth, and everyone else is interested in partying and mundane things. And see, that just kept it going, because I imagined a self that was separate and special and becoming sort of more and more enlightened. And I could compare myself to others and even other spiritual people, religious people maybe, and compare myself to them, all to maintain a self that wasn't real and could never be real, because it's only an idea that doesn't have validity. And see, most approaches sort of keep this imaginary entity in the game, so to speak. So, this thing would say, like, would give a practice to an assumed entity and then expect a result in time. But this is all about the immediacy of this moment. It's not even a moment, because a moment implies time. So it's just what's currently arising. It's prior to what's currently arising. And that, in and of itself, means absolutely nothing. Words are useless in this. These are just sounds. It's vibrations happening. And they don't have really any value, except at times they can expose other words, other concepts. So the mind says, essentially, this isn't it. And then the non-dual message is, well, this is it. So then the mind may become reconditioned. So the mind may be more accustomed to looking at what is. So the mind says, okay, well, this is it, alright. So then the mind gets more accustomed to sort of seeing what is instead of what could be. And it seems like there is a sort of reconditioning aspect of this. So it's sort of replacing certain concepts with other concepts. But all of that is just more appearance. The root of this whole game is the seeing that there's no entity, no personal self that's separate. And that's not as bizarre as it sounds. Things simply go on. It's just that there isn't a self that's in control or has free will or choice to do anything or not do anything. So it sounds like a horrible loss, but it was never real to begin with. So it's very simple, but the mind doesn't like simplicity. So it becomes a very paradoxical thing. And the only suggestion, even though there's no entity, awareness talking to awareness, or oneness to oneness, would say, look back and see that all there is oneness. And then you can just forget this video and you can stop wasting time and money in this whole game, because this is it. And that's not a doctrine. It's just, this is home already. Thank you.